What's up guys, I'm Dean and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another movie diary. Every month I go through all the movies I watched in the past month, give you the score out of 5, and at the end I'll give you one recommendation and one movie to avoid. It's an incredibly simple system and I've done this like 8, 9, 10 times now, I've got no idea. Before we jump into the month of January 2022, the first 2022 movie diary, I would just like to thank you guys for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. That is absolutely mental and it means the world to me. I'm going to keep posting on YouTube one video a week until I don't even know when, and you know, just because I enjoy doing it and I'm glad you guys enjoy watching it. Clearly, if you've got any video suggestions, let me know in the comments or whatever. But with all that said and done, let's jump into my January movies. I actually watched a lot of good movies this year, which is good. And the first movie I watched was Avengers Endgame. I don't know the last one I would have seen this was, because it's a long movie, it takes a while to get through, but I went through all of it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it does such a good job of fan service and finale and bringing together all these characters. Personally, I enjoy Infinity War because I think it does a better job at all those elements, and I think in Endgame can like slog a little in the middle there. But I think Endgame is great. It's got some great humour. I really enjoy the time travel elements because I think that's such an interesting way of like being a finale to this saga that's been going on for what, like 11 years at the time. So I thought that was a great way of doing that. And I really love the conclusion of Iron Man and Captain America. I know the Captain America one can be a bit controversial, and I love that. Black Widow's death works. That final Portals action scene is phenomenal. It's amazing. And I was finding the structure of this movie really interesting on a rewatch as well, because it's kind of in the three parts of leading up to the time travels. The first hour, the middle hour is the time travel, and then the third hour is the big battle at the end, which still really holds up for me. Overall, I gave this movie 4.5 stars just because it's crazy that it's any good at all. It should be absolutely garbage with the amount of characters and the amount of storylines and the amount of stuff going on. It should be terrible, but it's good. It's great. We're off to a great start here. The second movie I watched was a movie I'd never seen before, and that is Little Miss Sunshine. It's just a fun road trip type movie. Well, it's fun. It's dark humour, and like it has some heavy themes to it, but they don't feel out of place for me, and I think they address these in really interesting ways, and the dark humour works well. I think there's some really funny jokes there. What else to say about this? The performances are great. Steve Carell is great in it, and Paul Dano's in it, and there's some interesting stuff with his character. I think there's an overall message which works well, and I think it's a weird one because it is so depressing but it's so happy at the same time. And some movies do that by starting off really happy and then getting really depressing, but this movie does handles these emotions at the same time, like simultaneously, unlike anything I've really seen before. So I thought that was really interesting. I gave it 4 stars. I then rewatched Tick Tick Boom it's my third watch of Tick Tick Boom, my favourite movie of 2021. Spoilers for my ranking 2021 video, but it's in second place actually. My ranking 2021 video up there. I ranked all 54 movies of 2021. I put it in second place. So if you want to find out what's in first place, click up there. I got the right corner. Anyway, Tick Tick Boom is phenomenal. I've talked about it enough already, I'm aware, in both last month's movie diary and the month before that and the ranking video. So this is my like 4th time on this YouTube channel talking about it. Anyway, I'm getting bogged down in semantics. I think it's incredible. I think the music is amazing. I think Andrew Garfield's performance is phenomenal, and I think the performances of everyone around him do a great job of elevating that to elevating his performance to the next level. And the cinematography is interesting, and they do some really interesting stuff with the music, and the direction has some like it is well done. It's interesting, and yeah, it's just all round. I've been listening to it a lot, and I'm just a big old fan. I then watched Crazy Stupid Love, which is a Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone rom-com, and I think it's a really interesting rom-com because it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a parody of a rom-com because it's not. It's kind of Crazy Stupid Love is kind of like the rom-com version of Scream, because Scream is kind of a parody but then kind of a movie of the genre and that sort of thing. And Crazy Stupid Love is very similar to that because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different romances there, and they all kind of fit one of the classic romantic archetypes that you expect to see in rom-coms, but it kind of addresses the problematic nature of some of these, and I think it has a sweet message. I think there's one scene in this movie which is just mwah, chef's kiss. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but it brings everything back together. This is a really great rom-com, and I gave it 4 stars. This month was so good. I haven't watched any bad things. I then watched Letters from an Unknown Woman, which was filmed in it wasn't, I don't know when it was filmed, I wasn't there. It was released in 1948, and I really enjoyed it. I think its plot is more complex than I was expecting. The performances were good, and the narration style and the way the story unfolded was super compelling, and the lead, the unknown woman in the letter, I think she did a great job. So her performance was really good, and yeah, I think it had something interesting to say about gender roles and all that sort of thing. So I did give it 4.5 stars. I then watched Scream 5, and I gave it 4.5 stars. This was the first Scream movie I've ever watched, and I thought it was delightful. I think there was some really great meta commentary there, which made me laugh. I think, yeah, it did a good job of being a parody of the slasher and having interesting commentary and what to say, and it really led into like this self-referential meta text kind of idea that the first Scream movie toys with, and I think I really enjoyed how much it lent into these ideas, and I think the horror elements worked well. I think the reveal at the end worked well, and I think the returning cast was pretty good for someone who hadn't seen the original Scream at the time. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think I already said that, but who knows at this point. All good things must come to an end. The hot streak ends when I watched the I watched the New Mutants for the first time. The last movie in the X-Men franchise, and I gave it 2 stars because it's not very fun. If you want to hear more thoughts about that, I talked about it on my podcast, The Silver Lining, where we take a bad movie, we talk about the good and we talk about the bad, and then we improve it. That's up there if you want to go check that out. It was a lot of fun, that episode, and we actually did improve this movie because it's not great. It's not sure what it's to be, because it's supposed to be a horror movie. It doesn't do a good job of that. It's supposed to be like a coming of age teen story, and it doesn't do a good job of that. And these two genres, I think, would make a really interesting meshing, but they're not meshed. It's just horror scene, coming of age scene, horror scene, coming of age. It just, there's no meshing there, and the characters don't work. There's weird decisions for all the characters, I would argue. Some of them don't get enough time, and some of them have weird dialogue, and the threat at the end isn't interesting. The action is so underwhelming. I think with the power set you have, these characters have, you could do some really interesting things. And they're a team of 5, the New Mutants, and they all just use their powers individually. So that at the end of the movie, spoiler, this isn't a massive spoiler, they're fighting a big bear, and they just take it in turns to go, I'll fight it, okay, I'll fight it, and there's no sense of cohesion with the team. The action's underwhelming, it looks bland, and it's 90 minutes long, so it's not awful. I gave it 2 stars because, gosh, it was, a whole lot of nothing. I then watched Saturday Night and Sunday Morning from 1960. This is a weird one for me because this movie is set pretty much where I live, and the dialogue and the way the characters talked and the way they interacted, despite the fact that the movie was set in the 60s or the 50s or whatever, it did really feel like, it felt so real. It was like, I don't see people in movies talking like this, and this is how everyone around me talks. Oh, hey, we duck. Oh, that's a phrase from where I live. And I just found that really compelling, and I think the main character is complex and a bad person, and I think the movie explored that in interesting ways, and explored kind of the wage gap and that sort of thing in interesting ways, and like working class lives. I gave it 3.5 stars overall because I feel like it could have gone deeper into these themes, because there's a lot of just milling about and not doing much. But apart from that, I did have fun with it. I enjoyed it. The next movie I watched was a superhero movie of 2021. One of the best. The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's. And it was a rewatch. This was the 3rd time I would have watched this. The first time I watched it since cinema. And it still holds up. It's so funny. The music is so good. The character work is amazing. They some of them have such good, strong arcs. Ratcatcher 2 is my favourite, and Peacemaker's great, and Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag is amazing, and just all the elements work together so well. I had a jolly good time watching it. 4.5 stars. Did I already say that? Who bloody knows and or cares? But back to the cinema, I went to watch the 355, a spy movie with an all-female cast, and I didn't enjoy it. I gave it 1.5 stars because it's the most generic thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, spy movies nowadays can just be so unoriginal and nobody cares. None of the characters I found compelling. I mean, I'm a fan of all the actresses in this movie that I knew before the movie, and I think that they don't do bad performances. Just there was nothing interesting there in the writing, and there was no like arcs or chemistry, and it had the most boring MacGuffin of all time of it's the thing that can hack everything. That's in literally every Fast and Furious movie. If you're ripping off Fast and Furious movies, you know you're being too generic. And the action was just edited so weirdly, and the movie jumped around the world and from location to location with no semblance of like flow, and it was just bland, and I couldn't tell you what the plot was because it was boring. Yeah, I wish it was better, because it's not. I should clarify. I don't have an issue with there being an all-female cast, and if you do, grow the frick up. It's just self-censoring now. I don't know if you could see that, because that's not an issue to have with this movie. The issue to have with this movie is the boring writing and Sebastian Stan's bland character. He was the boring one in this movie. Nothing against Sebastian Stan. It's not his fault. He tried, but he was boring. It was boring. It was bland and boring, and I'm glad it made no money, because maybe Hollywood will learn not to make bland and boring movies. Just, what was the point in making this movie? Because it's the same as every other spy movie I've watched in the last 15 years. Like, this is like the Bourne Identity, but worse. Like, Bourne Identity had interesting action. This is just quick cut, smash in, zoom out. It's bad, and it didn't work, and it's not worth watching, and nobody did watch it. So this rant isn't even going to be appealing to anyone, because nobody watched the movie. I said I wasn't going to rant this month. But what can we just stop with the main thing of all spy movies at the moment being, I've got a device that can hack anything, because that's every spy movie. Why does it have to be in every spy movie? Because it's not interesting. There are no stakes there, and it doesn't make sense. And just do something new. Do something original for once in your life. If you're like, hey, we wanna, let me think about how to phrase this, because this is a tricky topic to sometimes talk about when you're angry. If they're like, hey, we want to put more women in movies, and we want to promote feminist ideas and women being able to stick up for themselves and be the heroes of their own stories instead of needing men to come and save them. That's great. I love that idea. Please do that in movies, but do it in good movies. You can't just do that and go, okay, so we've got this idea of women in a movie, but let's just do the same movie as everyone's already seen. That doesn't work. I would love for a movie like that. I like the idea of the thing is, because it's got a good idea of multiculturalism there as well. That element of it works because it's a spy team. If you look on the poster, which is there, it's the poster. It's there, isn't it? Then it's got 5 members from different countries, and the multiculturalism worked, and it promoted a cool idea of that's a spy team of different women from different spy agencies around the world. That's interesting. Just there was no interesting execution there, and I think they could have gone more into this multiculturalism idea, but instead it's just, hey, I'm gonna hack anything and I can shoot you, and the action's bad. That got away from me. When I left that movie, I just felt nothing because it was so bland, and now I'm talking about it, I'm angry that it's not better. I then watched Netflix's animated 3-act story thing, The House, which you don't know, it's a movie, but it's 3 separate stories about houses, and it's creepy, and it was light, and it was interesting, and there were some fun moments, and there were some stronger stories and some weaker stories, and some stories which needed more development, and some stories that had too much time spent on them out of the 3. Yeah. I don't have much more to delve in apart from that. As you can see, I gave it 3.5 stars. Let's just move on. I then watched Cabaret, a musical from 1972. If you want to hear me talk more about this musical, or if you want to hear me talk more about Tick Tick Boom, then on my podcast this week, Yeah, it came out today as of time of recording. We talked about musicals and the link is up there. We went through my top 10 musicals and my co-host Fluffy Duffy's, aka my good friend Harlan's top 10 musicals. And it was a lot of fun. I don't know why I went Italian there. It's because I was thinking about my podcast and we love Italian accents on my podcast. Anyway, Cabaret is fun. I like kind of the subtext of the Nazi story. It might be a bit too on the nose at times. It's what kind of fell weak for me with some of the characters didn't completely work, but the music was good and the story, the way it unfolded was interesting. And I think it had a solid ending. Just, yeah, could have had more work on the characters. As you can see, I gave it 3.5 stars. On to one of my favourite movies of all time. I then watched Hacksaw Ridge, another Andrew Garfield classic. Andrew Garfield is the man of my dreams. Hacksaw Ridge is an inspiring movie that encourages my faith, and it changed me the first time I watched it, and I just think it's really powerful, the true story of this man with such conviction and, you know, just someone who knows what he thinks is right and is sticking by that. I think there's something really inspiring in this movie, and the movie does such a good job of showing that, and the movie also does such a good job of showing you the horror of war in such a truly, like, scary way in some senses. It's like scary and inspiring and shocking and fun at times. I just love Hacksaw Ridge so much. Obviously I gave it 5 stars. I then watched the original Scream after already seeing Scream 5, and it's good. I don't know, I feel like the horror elements weren't there enough to make it a truly good slasher movie, and I don't think the commentary was there enough to make it a truly good parody. So I think it was that's what I found conflicting about it. But apart from that, it was alright, it was good. I enjoyed it. 3.5 stars. What's next? I then watched one of my favourite movies of all time. This is in my Letterboxd top 4, La La Land. Whoa, what is it to say about this movie? It looks amazing. It looks phenomenal. Every shot and dance sequence and facial expression from Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling is just perfect. And they did such an amazing job just, you know, just... This movie says so much through silence, and I know that sounds counterintuitive because it's a musical, but it's just Emma Stone specifically and also Ryan Gosling being such great actors that you can just tell what they're thinking, what their characters are thinking constantly throughout. And the music is, of course, incredible. It's moving and it's fun and it's so recognisable, and the score is all the same things. And it is such an emotional roller coaster. It really picks you up, cues your depression, and then completely wins you, punches you in the stomach, and takes the wind out of your sails in the course of 2 hours. And it does an incredible job of that. And it's so much fun, and it's so heartbreaking, and it's so clever. I love it. Could not recommend it enough. 5 stars, obviously. I then rewatched Bo Burnham's Inside for the 6th time. For the 6th time. I've seen it so many times. It hasn't even been out for a year. I have a problem. Every time I watch it, I forget how sad the ending is. But the music is so great, and the cinematography is surprisingly amazing, and it's funny and heartbreaking and moving and inspiring and relatable, and I'm a big fan. I don't know why I sounded like I was going to sing that. I'm not going to talk about Bo Burnham's Inside though, because I've talked about it 5 times already in my movie diary series, and I talked about it in my ranking all the 54 things. The last thing I watched in the month of January was Kenneth Branagh's Belfast. And I know this is getting some flack for being too clean and too unrealistic, but that's the point of the movie, because it's the child's memories and all that really worked for me. This movie is absolutely stunning. One of the most beautiful movies I've seen in a while, and I would say it's the most beautiful movie I've seen this month, apart from La La Land, which is saying something, because I think La La Land might be the most good, the best looking movie ever. Top 2. The other one I was thinking was Spider-Verse, in case you're wondering. But just, it did black and white in such a good way. And it used colour interestingly in the opening. It's so great, and it's got great music and phenomenal performances. I gave it 4 stars because there are some pacing issues. But overall, it was a delight. Now, what to recommend and what to tell you to avoid. I'm going to tell you to avoid the 355. I don't think that's any surprise. Now, what to tell you to recommend. Obviously, out of everything I watched this month, La La Land was my favourite. I'll go with Letter from an Unknown Woman, because I feel like everyone's seen La La Land, at least I hope. So try out Letter from an Unknown Woman, because I had a lot of fun with that. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like this video. Please comment whatever you want. I don't care. I'll read it. Please subscribe. Stick around, because I do a YouTube video every week. Don't ask me when it comes out during the week, because I'm a free agent. I do what I want. And what else do I have to share? Nothing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.